Hi again, and welcome to Folsom Field. The construction continues behind us on the brand new facility, the Champion Center. If you haven't had a chance to go through it, you need to. It is phenomenal. Great to have college football back upon us as we get set for that September 3rd opener at Hawaii. It's a late one on a Thursday night in year number 3 of the Mike McIntyre area. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Johnson, voice of the Buffs from 850 KOA Radio, joined today by contributor from CUBuffs.com, B.G. Brooks. We're sending him out to pasture. He's retiring after 6 years and decades covering the Buffaloes, and he's being replaced by the new and improved B.G. Brooks. Can I say that? Neill Woelk, who, of course, covered the Buffs for many years for the Boulder Daily Camera, and now joins CUBuffs.com as a contributing editor.
Well, you managed to get two things wrong there, Mark. Number one, new and improved. Not a step up from BG, and BG's actually not retiring. But no, it's great to be here. BG's still going to be contributing to us on a regular basis. Spent 30 years covering this program. Very glad to be here and be part of the CU team.
And Butch, where are you going? What are you going to do with all the spare time you got?
Well, you know, I'm retiring, but I'm not disappearing. So I'll keep on working a couple of days, maybe more, you know, whatever Dave Platty will have me doing for the football and basketball seasons, and then, you know, then reevaluate when those are over.
Neil, how about you coming back, though, to cover the Buffaloes? It's a place that you grew up around here. You went to CU. You covered it for the Boulder Daily Camera for many years.
Oh, it's a great time to be coming back, Mark. If you look at the things like you said, right, going on behind us, they're building this new facility. Every program in the department is on an upswing. Rick George has things going in a great direction, and could not have picked a better time to start working here and covering the Buffs on a full-time basis.
Well, I think not only from a facility standpoint, but maybe from a football standpoint, it's an exciting time. The Buffaloes were 2-10 a year ago. 4 of those losses by a combined 15 points. Which, as you look back, and you're number 3 under Mike McIntyre, there seems to be momentum. I mean, he seems to be following a similar pattern that he was very successful in following at San Jose.
Yeah, exactly. The theme this year among the Buffs is finishing, and they're putting great emphasis on the fourth quarter, eliminating those mistakes that cost them those close games last year, and everybody seems to have bought in. I think that you're going to see a new and improved Buffs team.
Year number 1 under Mike McIntyre, the Buffs took some very serious losses. Last year they were the close losses. Neil, should we expect maybe more victories here in 2015?
I think a lot of those close losses turned into wins this year. I think that the year of experience, a bigger, stronger team, faster. They've been through the war before. Last year they had a lot of kids who didn't know what to expect when they hit that overtime period. This year they've been there, and they've been practicing that every day in their practices. Win the fourth quarter, win the game there, don't make mistakes, and I think you're going to see that change this year.
Well, you'll see that, and they talked about it at the kickoff luncheon here a short time ago at Balch Fieldhouse when they got to the portion of the presentation when Mike McIntyre stood up. All the players held 4 fingers in the air. Mike has asked fans and supporters alike to do the same thing for the Buffaloes, see if they can turn some of those losses into victories in 2015. Gentlemen, start looking at this football team. We know last year was a very good offensive team. A number of records were set. And, Butch, if you start with the wide receivers, I guess you have to start with Nelson Spruce.
Yeah, you got to. He's the go-to guy. He was Cefo's favorite target last year. He'll continue to be. But the good thing about it now is that there's not going to be as much pressure on that twosome, Cefo and Nelson, to make all those big plays. They've got a really capable core of wide receivers.
And, Neil, I think if there's a lot of defensive attention being paid to number 22, that means somebody else has got to be open, and you would expect big numbers from somebody else.
Number 5 will be real happy if they're double teaming number 22 because Shea Fields had a great freshman year, caught 50 balls last year. I think he's looking to increase those numbers this year. He's looked great in camp. He's just had an outstanding camp, catching the ball, running routes, doing everything right. And as BG said, there are a lot of other young receivers out there that are, you know, in that lineup that are ready to make some plays. Devin Ross, Donovan Lee
Bryce
Walker,
Bobo.
Bryce Bobo, Jay McIntyre. They look to have 7 receivers who are contributing this year, and I think they'll get there.
Well, certainly there's more depth and experience now, the wide receiver core. Now, the guys on the other side of the ball in the secondary, also a great deal of experience there. And, of course, this will be the first time we get a chance to talk about the new additions to the coaching staff. Jim Leavitt, the defensive coordinator, formerly of South Florida, and, of course, most recently with the San Francisco 49ers, and Joe Tumpkin, PG. Those guys have brought a lot of energy to this football team on the defensive side.
Yeah, I think if you were around spring ball last year when Jim Leavitt made his debut, and Joe Tumpkin as well, you could see that Leavitt was a 110-mile-an-hour guy, and I think the players picked up on that real fast. The high energy, always in motion. He's got some energy to him, and I think that's going to rub off. Joe Tumpkin also was a defensive coordinator at Central Michigan, so you've got 2 former defensive coordinators, one, being Jim Leavitt as the defensive coordinator, but a guy in the secondary coaching the safeties that has that coordinator experience also.
Neill, it would certainly look like there's a lot of material for those guys to work with. And maybe since you go back maybe to Jimmy Smith and Jaleel Brown the last time, maybe they had depth and talent and some real top-level talent in the secondary, but that would appear to be the case in 2015.
This might be the overall most experienced and deepest group on the team when you talk about the secondary, when you start talking about the safeties and the corners. I mean, you've got guys like Jared Bell and Ryan Moeller playing back there at safety. You've got Tedrick Thompson playing back there at safety. He had 3 interceptions last year. You go on to corner, you've got Chidobe Awuzie, you've got Ken Crawley, you've got John Walker. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that can play, and they're going to need them all. I mean, they're playing in the Pac-12.
Now we have a lot more responsibility. Last year it was the leadership role was on the linebackers. Now coaches line on the safeties a whole lot more. Okay. So it's really up to us to know exactly what we're doing and what we need to do.
From the little guys to the big fellas, the offensive line, pretty good experience up front in a line that was pretty solid for the Buffaloes in 2014. BG, at least 3 of those positions. There's a lot of experience out there entering the season.
Yeah, you got the 2 tackles who I think are very solid in Stefan Nembot and Jeremy Irwin. And at center, Alex Kelly, wealth of experience there. All 3 very talented players. Alex Kelly has, the smarts to really make those calls in the middle. And the bookended tackles, I think you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, Stefan Nembot might be one of the most impressive, physically looking human beings from an athletic standpoint you've ever seen. But, Neill, there literally is a changing of the guards for the Buffaloes in 2015.
There is a changing of the guards. They lost 2 starters from last year, but they have 2 very good players coming back at those positions. Actually, 3 at left guard. They're going to have Gerard Coe. He played quite a bit last year. Had a couple of starts at a couple of different places, and they like what they've seen of him from camp. At right guard, Shane Callahan and Jonathan Huckins will be rotating throughout the year. And unless one of them really grabs the bull by the horns, those will be the starters there. The coaches are comfortable with those guys. They're big 300-pounders, and I think they'll do a good job.
I would say the main thing is, we're replacing 2 new guards. So the main thing is getting that the connection across the whole line, because offensive line is the only position on the field that works as a unit, and we all need to work in sequence. So just getting that down.
From the offensive line, we head to the defensive line, where BG, I think I talked to Jim Jeffcoat last week one day. He's pretty happy with the fact he's actually got some numbers to work with, probably the most he's had since this coaching staff has been here.
Yeah, numbers are a good thing, particularly when you got to generate a pass rush for as long as you have to do against Pac-12 teams. So he's looking to have a 7 or 8 man rotation. He's got 2 JC guys in Leo Jackson and Jordan Carroll, who will probably figure into the mix. He's got Samson Kapavalu, who's coming back. Eddie Lopez has shown well in camp. Justin Solis, so he's got a good group to choose from.
Now, at this point in time, Neill, do we look at Derek McCartney and Jimmy Gilbert as defensive ends, or are they outside linebackers in Jim Leavitt's system? What are we doing with these guys?
Yes.
The answer is all of the above.
The answer is all of the above. And that's the way they're playing it this year. And Leavitt has talked about that several times during camp, that those guys, they'll be rush-ins at times, they'll be outside linebackers in time that have to drop into coverage. They'll chase a tight end down, they'll chase somebody in the slot down, they'll be rushing the pass, and they'll be playing against the run. It'll just depend on what kind of defense they're playing at that specific moment. So you'll see guys like Derek McCartney and Jimmy Gilbert playing a little bit up on the line, rushing the quarterback, and you'll also see them dropping into coverage.
D-line's been working really hard. We've gotten a lot better. There's just a lot of energy on our defense right now, on our D-line. People are excited to get out there and make plays. People are getting better every day, and they want to get better every day. That's what's making us great.
For the defensive line, we now head to the running backs, where we've got an experienced and pretty deep crew there. It's been a while, though, since the Buffs have had a lot of ground success. In fact, only 2 1,000-yard rushers in the last 11 years. Bobby Purify and Roddy Stewart, Speedy Stewart here just a few years ago. But you look at that group, though. I guess Christian Powell might be the name guy out of there, considering he's got 1,700 yards in his career so far. But there's a lot of depth at running back.
A lot of depth. Behind Christian Powell, you've got Michael Adkins and Philip Lindsay. There was a 3-man rotation last year, and I think that's probably going to be the case this year, unless you have a back who steps up, gets a hot hand, and he'll obviously run the ball more. But behind those 2 guys, you got a couple of freshmen who've shown well in camp, in Dino Gordon and Patrick Carr.
Well, the Buffaloes are one of the few teams in this spread-out world of college football, Neil, that still has a fullback around. God bless them.
You know, that fullback still does a job too. I mean, you look at a guy like George Fraser last year. I think he scored 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, caught 3 passes for touchdowns, and then you've got Jordan Murphy, who's a great blocking back. And I think you'll see those fullbacks worked into the mix just a little bit more, especially in short yardage situations where they didn't have a lot of success last year.
During fall camp so far, I've let my block set up and been more patient, because there's nothing better than a patient runner. You get more yards being a patient runner than trying to run through a hole fast.
Well, hopefully there's a special running back. How about special teams for the Buffaloes? And Butch, when you look at where the Buffs are from a kicking standpoint, it's one of those cycles where veterans that you've counted on for a couple of years are gone, so there's a lot of newness, but losing Dara O'Neill and Will Oliver, that's no small thing.
Yeah, actually you're counting on guys to replace 2 4-year starters in Will Oliver and Dara O'Neill. So Toby Ninus, the special teams coach, is he's fretting a little bit over the inexperience, but the talent he's got, I think, makes him feel a whole lot better. He's looking for consistency from those guys.
Well, Neil, Diego Gonzalez, the kicker, are they really looking at a freshman to be the punter this year?
Diego Gonzalez has a big leg and has shown so far in the kicking game. Freshman Alex Kinney has had a really good camp, and no telling what they're going to do for sure, but indications are that they could run a freshman kicker out there at the beginning of the year.
Many times special teams gets overlooked, but it's such a big part of the game, so we'll see how that develops for the Buffaloes. Now let's talk some linebackers. We already mentioned Jim Leavitt, the new defensive coordinator, and it's going to be a very varied defense, shall we call it? Multiple defense, I guess, in many ways. And Butch, when you look at linebackers, I guess you're going to start with Addison Gillum and Kenneth Olabode. They both have been very productive in their careers.
Yeah, Olabode has been a superb athlete. Addison Gillum had a great freshman season, slipped a little bit last year as a sophomore, but all indications are he's on the way back and has had a good camp.
Addison Gillum got so beat up last season. He appears to be healthy at this point in time, kind of regained his love for football, but it's just not those two guys, Neil.
No, they've got some good depth on the inside. Rick Gamboa has been playing well inside. They got a freshman, N.J. Fallow, that has played well on the inside. Outside, and again, we're going back to that, are they defensive ends or linebackers? But outside, you've got Derek McCartney and Jimmy Gilbert, who will have a lot of reps out there, and maybe even a young kid by the name of Aaron Howard.
You know, maybe we should probably mention as well, Neil, there's a Air Force transfer who was a quarterback, and that's an odd transition. Quarterback to linebacker, but he's going to be part of this.
It's an odd transition, but Jaleel Awini has had a great camp, and they're playing him a little bit at the outside. They're playing him a little bit at the nickel and even a little bit of safety, and he's going to be in there making plays somewhere for him, Mark.
You know, it's been awesome to see. I think coming in with having a new coach and Coach Leavitt, I think it's helped a lot. You know, there's lots of competition. Everybody's working hard, running the ball. You know, I think there's more different type of energy. He brings a lot of confidence to us, I think, and I think that's just going to help us turn it around this year. And then the competition, that's only helping me and Kenneth Olabode get a lot better. So.
Well, we talk about the transition for Jaleel Awini being a quarterback to a linebacker. Let's transition from the linebackers to the quarterback position. For the first time in a long time, the Buffaloes are settled there. In fact, it's only the 6th time in 125 years of Colorado football history there's a 3-year starter for the Buffaloes. And Sefo Liufau, Butch, put up some big numbers, 51 records a year ago, and everyone expects him to elevate his game even above that this his junior year.
Absolutely, and I think he can. He may not be called on to do as much as last year, because hopefully they'll have the running game a little bit improved, much improved maybe, so, you know, less pressure on Sefo. But he is a guy, he's bigger now, he's 6'4", you know, just under 240 pounds, and he's a load.
Jordan Gerke and Cade Ashby are the backups there, but back to Sefo for just a second, Neil. He made some mistakes last year in crucial moments in ball games. I get the sense of talking with him, he believes he's matured beyond that at this point.
I think he has, and if you watch him in camp, he's learned that, you know, it's okay to throw the ball away rather than trying to throw it into traffic unless you absolutely have to. The other thing he's got going for him, the defense should be better this year for CU. He shouldn't be put in that position every game this year where he has to score in the fourth quarter to win a game. And I think improved running game, as BG said, and an improved defense will help Sefo's production quite a bit.
Anytime you get a guy that started close to 20 games in his career, I mean, that's huge, and I've been really impressed with his progress in managing situations. We've worked a lot of different situations in camp, whether it be 2-minute, 4-minute, end-of-game scenarios, and I think he's been handling himself with composure and making some good decisions for us. I'm excited to watch him play.
Well, we can't wrap up the football preview show without talking about the Champion Center just behind us. The construction continues. They're trying to get everything put together and done by that September 12th home opener when UMass comes calling. But Fellas, I don't think you can overstate what this thing has meant. We've all been through it. We've seen it. It is a crown jewel here at Folsom Field, and BG, far overdue.
Oh, no doubt. We were talking about this 10, 12 years ago, and for it finally to come to fruition, I think, and in the time frame that it's done so, has been pretty miraculous. So it's a great facility.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And one thing that's very unique about it, Neill, and Eric McCarty and CU Sports Medicine, and really the entire second floor, really takes this facility with what they do medically to a different level.
Oh, it's amazing. If a kid's injured, they can take him in and get an MRI or an X-ray right here on campus. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to load him up, and they can get the health care they need right here. And they're also engaging the community because some of those facilities will be available for the community.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be an enormous upgrade for the University of Colorado football program. Well, we made an announcement at the kickoff lunch, and of course have talked about all season long or off season about Larry Zimmer and his final season after 42 years being in the booth. And we made the announcement in 2016, so not this season, but next season. Former coach Gary Barnett will be joining me full-time in the broadcast booth. I want to get your guys' reaction. I got here in 04 when Gary was still here, worked 2 years with him. You both covered him for many years. Butch, you think Gary's going to do okay in the booth?
I think he'll do okay. I think he'll be beyond okay. I think Gary has got a great football mind. He's energetic, he's engaging, he's familiar with this place. The community is familiar with him. I think it's a great fit.
And Neill, the thing about it is, and I've really, the outpouring since we made the announcement has been phenomenal. He's a very popular name in Buff Nation.
Oh, still a very popular. I mean, this is a guy that led him to the Big 12 championship in 2001. He was an assistant coach on the 1990 national championship team. He knows this university. He knows the state, and it's still very near and dear to his heart. I think it was a great choice.
Well, Zim will still be doing the home games, of course, with us. And in terms of the road games, we've got a number of different folks to be joining us. Coach Barnett, by the way, will do the home game with USC and the road game at UCLA. We look forward to the season kicking off. It's a late one on a Thursday night as the Buffs open up on the road against the University of Hawaii. You can join us for the broadcast on 850 KOA. For B.G. Brooks, for Neill Woelk from CUBuffs.com, I'm Mark Johnson of 850 KOA Radio. Thanks for joining us on our Buffs preview. Looking forward to the season getting underway. The Buffs at Hawaii on September 3rd. We'll talk to you next time.